So, let's go ahead and resume. Yeah. I'm doing great. Today's been amazing. They both sat down, squishing you between them. Ma leaned her head against yours, and Mom started rubbing your back soothingly. Nothing was said at first, but Ma sighed contentedly. Mom looked at you wistfully. We're both really proud of you, Joseph.
True.
You grew up to be more than we ever could have hoped for. Let's see. It's only thanks to you two. Now let's just thank you. Like, girl, I don't care that much. You were touched by the words, and your voice came out in a whisper. Mom chuckled and lightly brushed a bit of your hair.
Thank you.
That's not something you need to thank us for. But still, I wouldn't be here without either of you. Ma wrapped an arm around your middle and squeezed you tight in a side hug. Glancing at Mom, you saw how teary-eyed she became. She sniffed. You stayed there quietly and contentedly, watching the sun set with your parents for a while. Until Mr. Holden called out to you. He was still walking in your direction. We were talking and think we're going to take a walk down the shore. Any of you want to come? Oh my god, I sound exhausted. Thank you. Thank you, Brillichan. I feel really pretty now. Automatically, you looked to your moms for what they were thinking. Mom glanced from you to Ma and smiled. I should have picked all the sad options at the restaurant. He was gonna make out with me if I picked the sad options? What the? Anyway. That sounds good to me.
That's fantastic.
Yes, that'd be very nice. My legs need some stretching. That's a yes across the board. Thrilled, Mr. Holden threw out a thumbs up and began heading back the way he came in a light jog. Hey, don't leave us in the dust. Cliff kept going forward but flipped around, walking backwards across the sand so he could face you again.
No worries.
Don't worry, we wouldn't leave without you. Alright, we'll catch up. Before you forgot, you turned your game off and left it on the towel for now. Ready to go? Uh-huh. Both of your moms held out a hand to you. Chuckling, you gave them each one, and you all strolled back to the rest of the group. When Liz was in reach, Ma used her free hand to pull her into it too. Liz shook her head, but her mouth quirked into a smirk and she didn't resist. Together as a family, you followed behind the others, hand in hand. Your feet squished into the wet sand as the waves rolled over them, and you didn't have a single care in the world as more and more stars began to dot the sky. We had a makeout session, we don't need a pity session. Your MC would have gotten an emotional breakdown. Once the sun had been long out of sight, it was finally time to pack up. The closing of the day and the ever-approaching end of summer seemed intertwined. It caused a quiet, reflective mood to blanket over the group. On the beach, Tyrion and Miranda took turns compressing Cove in a hug before moving on to do the same to you. You chuckled, still overjoyed that you got to see them today. I'm sorry we have to go already. My parents are here. That's okay. But still, I wish we could help and clear this all up. Don't worry about it. Just thanks for coming out today. It was cool having everyone here.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I'm super glad we came. Hopefully we can do it again sometime. Nodding, you turned your attention to Terry. She wore a large grin on her face and held out a hand for a low five. You obliged.
See you later.
Take care of yourselves, buddies. After that, they walked away, waving to you and Cove as they went down the shore. Cove waved quietly back with a small smile on his face. I'll just wave at him. You want to bang the redhead best friend? Oh my gosh. It was a big wave. You hoped Miranda was right and there would be another day like this soon. Taking you by surprise, Terry jumped and twisted around. She kept up with Miranda by walking backwards. She kept the mood of your farewell light by shooting finger guns at you and Cove. Miranda bumped her with a hip. It left everyone with a laugh just before they disappeared down the bend. Joseph.
Come on.
Hey, Cove, could you come here? Both of your parents were motioning for you. The two of you went to them. Tons of things ended up at the beach over the course of the day, so there was still so much to pack up and the parents needed help. With a nod, you got to it, stuffing various things into bags and bundling them up in towels. Once things were ready to go, everyone filled their arms with as much as they could carry. Absolutely no one wanted this to be a back and forth kind of task. The walk back home ended up being mostly quiet. Each person seemed to be feeling the effects of the day. A cool breeze carried you across the sand and onto the road. Oh yeah, Baxter was here. Oh, British. It's Tuesday, innit? There was a sigh of relief from what felt like the group as a whole when they arrived back to the neighborhood. Baxter carefully placed down what he had been carrying on the ground. Thank you so much for helping with that.
Thanks.
No, thank you for allowing me... No, that sounds so... No, thank you for allowing me to join today. You all shared with me, helping me to carry it back. It's the least I can do. I can't just swap into British that easily. It takes me a while. Ma nodded and the others started collecting their things from his pile. Baxter, meanwhile, stepped over to you and Cove. It really was a pleasure getting to know you both this summer. His head tilted towards you and he smiled warmly. Baxter offered you his hands. You used your freer hand to shake his. You waved goodbye. You side hugged him. Why can't we give him a full hug? Let's hug him. It took a moment, but after... Okay, because we're carrying stuff. That's why we can't give him a regular hug. But after shuffling what you were carrying, you were able to free one of your hands to pull Baxter into a quick hug. I want to look over my shoulder at Cove. Yeah, you see what's going on here? I want to get him a little bit jealous so he can hate F me tonight. He genuinely laughed and looked at you fondly when you let go. Let's see. You didn't say anything. We just hug him and we don't say anything. That's strange. I think we did end up as good friends. I don't think we did.
Glad to hear it.
I don't think we did. We barely hung out. We hung out in like 2 moments. Maybe there'll be a lot more moments in the DLC for Baxter. I wholeheartedly agree, Joseph. I enjoyed this vacation immensely thanks to you. Baxter turned to shake Cove's hand this time. He was a little incredulous for a moment, but then Cove eventually shifted what he was carrying and took Baxter's hand. It wasn't long, but it was a solid handshake. Baxter was clearly pleased. I wish we had more time together, but it was still a nice ride while it lasted. Would happily do it all over again. Bye, Baxter. Yeah, bye. Baxter nodded and walked a few steps towards his condo. He then stopped and waved.
Goodbye.
Baxter sauntered away completely and disappeared inside the condo to return to his own things. His time with you and your family and friends ending. You paused for a moment, staring at where he went. But afterwards, he looked back over the rest of the group. Lee and Liz were just going inside your house. You couldn't spot Kyra or Holden anywhere, but the door to their houses was wide open. Mom approached you with an amused look on her face. Seems like you're holding up some Holden things. Surprised, you glanced down to take a quick inventory of what you were holding. Miss Mom was right. Some of it belonged to the neighbors. Would you mind dropping it off now? Looking down again at everything you were carrying, you sighed. A teasing grin played at your lips. The Holdens is a long walk from here. Cove snorted and laughed next to you, making your grin widen. Mom chuckled and shook her head. You can hack it, and then you'll get to experience the joy of a job well done. You laughed happily and nodded. Mom smiled fondly. She took a few steps towards his house and stopped, waiting for you.
Good night.
Good night, Cove. I'll see you inside, Joseph. Night. You caught up to Cove and together you went over to his house. Walking in the front door, you saw Kyra and Mr. Holden busily unpacking already. Things were scattered on counters and they were moving around each other. Putting the items away, they both lifted their heads when Cove closed the front door. Hey. It's nice seeing you again already, Joseph. Her teasing tone brought a light smile to your face. You hefted the stuff in your arms a little closer. I ended up with things of yours from the beach.
Oh,
Thanks for getting that to us. You can put it here on that coffee table. Mr. Holden pointed at the surface he was referring to, and immediately you left what didn't belong to your family there. Cove put his own things down on the floor just at his feet, wading through everything strewn about to reach his parents. Putting your family stuff on the ground for a moment, you dusted your hands off and straightened up. You needed a second of rest to resituate it all. You went over to where the others were too. Kyra opened her arms wide, wanting to hug you. You accepted? Alright, Kyra, come on. Just get a little squeeze of them boobies. Without any hesitation, you went to Kyra and let her pull you into a hug. You squeezed her back just as tight. Her hug was filled with affection, and you hoped that she could feel how much you cared about her too. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It was a blast. You're welcome. Today was amazing. Kyra eventually released you, but patted the tops of your shoulders as a final gesture.
Thank you.
Every time I've gotten to come by, it's been an absolute joy. Things really couldn't have worked out better. Mr. Holden took a step towards you. Kyra moved aside to let him say goodbye too. He grinned. Thank you for always being such a friendly neighbor. And not just right now, but for as long as I've known you. I didn't always make it easy, but you and your family are good people. I really, truly appreciate it.
thanks very much.
Thanks again, Joseph. So much. At that, Mr. Holden reached over and gave you a soft pat on the top of your head. I'm really glad that you're my neighbor. You hugged him. We can hug him too. Get your cheeks here, Mr. Holden. I look back at Cove again, squeezing his dad's ass. He's gonna hate F me so hard tonight. You burst forward to Mr. Holden and wrapped your arms around him. Surprised, he went rigid immediately. Okay, Mr. Holden, that's not the reaction I was expecting. That's not right. But several moments later, he relaxed and began to lightly pat your back before shifting into a full hug. You squeezed him tighter. Thanks for moving in. As you let go, he sniffled, but when he met your gaze once more, his mouth pulled into a wide, happy grin. Mr. Holden was staring at you, but his gaze seemed far away. Maybe he was looking back at who you used to be, the 8-year-old he had asked to be his son's new friend.
See you.
Bye, Joseph. You smiled softly. Then Cove took a step forward. He gestured to his pile of things he had carried into the house.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about all that. I'll put this stuff away in a few minutes. Right, I need to go do the same with my family. I figured. Cove walked you to the door and held it open. Taking one last check around to make sure you had all your things to bring home, you went into the road. He leaned his body against the doorframe, not following you out. So, this is it, huh? Actually, that's not what I meant. What I mean. His expression twisted and he shook his head a bit, like he was trying to banish the pensive thoughts.
Bye.
I'll just say bye. Yeah, bye. It won't be long before you'll see me again. You offered him a small wave goodbye with one of your hands. Cove reached forward and gently cupped your face with one hand. His thumb trailed across your cheek for several heartbeats. Mesmerized by his blue eyes, you stepped forward, delighted to oblige the request he was silently asking. He met you halfway as you smiled into the kiss. It was soft with longing, and your chest ached knowing that there couldn't be anything more than this, at least for now. One of his hands grabbed onto the door handle and firmly held it. He was stopping himself from coming along with you. As you walked over to your own front door, you stopped. Turning around, you spotted Cove right where you left him. You laughed quietly to yourself. For a small pause, you both stared at each other from across the street. Good night. You blew him a kiss. We don't need to hug him. We can just blow him a kiss. We've hugged the men we really love tonight. Cove reached out like he was catching it off to the side, and then he curled his fist into his chest, holding the kiss close. Your lips curled into a beaming smile. I hope you'll treasure that. Forever. Things couldn't be dragged out any longer. After one more shared smile, you opened the door and went inside, shutting it behind you. Imagine step 2 we could date Mr. Holden when we were 13? Excuse me? What are you saying? A few steps and your family gathered in... a few steps in, you saw your family gathered in the living room. They were still busy unpacking and cleaning. You added the things you brought to the pile on the kitchen counter. Mom stood up, rubbing her eyes a bit. She yawned loudly. I'm bushed. How about we finish the rest of the chores tomorrow? God, I have a hair on my lip. Yes, honestly, it's too late for this.
Thanks.
Please and thank you. Ma put her hands on her hips and turned to assess the room. Ma was not one who liked to leave a mess about, but she sighed.
All right.
I suppose we can make an exception to the usual rule. It really has been a long day. Liz grinned contentedly, wasted no time in skipping over to you, and hooked you into a side hug. Good night. I hope you have the loveliest of dreams of you-know-who. Lee ended that sentence with a wink and a hearty laugh. She let you go. We can hug her back. You pulled her close. I love how we hugging everyone but Cove. You pulled her close into a bear hug. Lee giggled until you released her. I hope you sleep well too. Oh, I totally will. The moment my head hits the pillow, I'll be out. Here's to us, Joseph. Tonight, tomorrow, and forever. You smirked at that? What does "you're really lucky" mean? Lucky how? You gently poked the top of her torso. Because you get to be my cousin. For a second I thought we were like poking your boobs and gonna be like, because you got such a nice chest. I was like, what? I was like, excuse me? You can't just poke her boobs and be like, nice chest. Lee giggled, smiling happily. Fine, you're right. I am lucky. Lee stretched her arms high over her head. She yawned loudly and looked at you with tired eyes. Oh, girl, same. I think that's my cue to head to bed. Bye. I think so too. Have fun sharing the room with Liz. She laughed at that, and Lee shuffled off towards the guest bedroom. Before you had a chance to do anything else, you could feel the top of your head being tapped. You spun around to see Liz smirking. Nighty-night. I'm heading to bed too. It's been a long day, and I have a lot to prepare for tomorrow. Exhaling, you automatically started fixing the back of your hair. When Liz didn't immediately walk away, you smiled softly at her. Everything okay? Her gaze moved away and you knew she had more to say. You waited patiently for Liz to compose her thoughts. It's been a good summer. It was nice to come back home. You nodded and Liz gave you a teasing nudge as she went by. Amused, you turned and watched her go. Love you, baby brother. Good night, Liz. You can give her a hug. You wrapped your arms around her to hug her from behind. She laughed and patted your hands. Eventually, you let Liz go from your grasp. When Liz was out of sight, Mom started up the next conversation over her shoulder. Aren't you heading up to bed too? Girl, I'm not gonna clean this crap up. I'm relaxing. Desperately, you needed some time to decompress and clear your mind. You worried if you went off to bed now, you'd end up staring at the ceiling all night. Okay. Ma came over too, smiling understandingly. She pulls you into a big hug.
Love you.
That didn't sound like Mom's voice. But... Alright, you do what you need to. I love you. When you were done hugging, Ma and Mom pulled you into another hug. Their actions basically handing you off to the other had you laughing jovially.
I love you.
I love you so much. I love you too. Oh. They both couldn't resist taking turns hugging you again. Your smile widened. It felt good to be so loved. Good night, kiddo. Sleep tight. Good night, sweetie. Night. After that, your moms headed off towards their bedrooms down the hall. You were about to turn the other direction when you heard Mom's voice. And don't let the bedbugs bite. You heard Ma chuckling as you watched them go with a smile. Time had passed, but you weren't entirely sure how much. Sighing, you sat up on the couch. It was a good rest, and all of your tired muscles felt quite relaxed. You got up, planning on going to bed when something out the window caught your eye. Your feet brought you right in front of the large windows spanning the length of the back wall. You stared into the hills behind your house. As if on cue, your phone came on, alerting you of a new notification. It was Cove. Oh my god, Cove. Wanna hang out on the hill tonight? Something inside you told you that this was the right kind of night to take a trip out there. You sent him back a very quick message. Yeah. Less than 3. You went over to the front door, stepping over the threshold. You gave the living room one last glance over your shoulder. Then you shut the door behind you silently. You made your way to the poppy hill. Step 4, Mom's deathbed. Stop. Stop. With light steps in the dark, you walked across the hills behind your house. Up ahead, at the very top, silhouetted beneath the night sky, was a familiar figure already waiting there. Smiling, you'd wondered just how he always got there first. You even had the advantage of living closer. Then again, and maybe it was all in your mind, but somehow Cove was intrinsically linked with this place. After all these years, it would be weird to scan this horizon and not find him there. As surreal as the shore without the she. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce words. The distance between you is growing shorter by the second. Hearing the grass and earth crunch under your feet, Cove turned. A grin spread over his face as he saw you. You took your place standing behind him on the crest of the poppy hill, looking out over the ocean. Same as you'd done on countless times since he'd first arrived, then you found him... Wait, same as you've done on countless times since he'd first arrived, when you'd found him on this very same spot. That... God, that sentence is something. Same as you've done on countless times... That... I don't know about that.
Joseph.
Yes? He had officially broken the silence, the spell that had held you both in place. You looked at him expectantly. There's something I've always kind of wondered about. He cocked his head, giving you a sidelong glance. What did you think about when we met? I was just a kid you'd never seen before, bawling his eyes out on the hill next to your house. He chuckled, his eyes drifting towards the sea beyond, before flicking back to you. The way his gaze pulled back to you made it clear he was genuinely interested in the topic. Luckily for him, you remembered what initially struck you in that moment. It was as if it had only happened yesterday. Well, I remember noticing those wavy eyebrows of yours. Cove shook his head, smiling wryly.
Seriously?
They're that noticeable? You honed in on them as soon as you saw me? Unbelievable. No one else had eyebrows like that. It's your signature look. Smiling, you continued to reminisce about that first meeting. I also remember trying to cheer you up. I remember that too. He ran a hand through his hair, and you knew his line of questioning wasn't at an end, even before he spoke again.
I mean...
Do you remember what you thought about me? You know, as a person? Was I annoying? wanted to get to know you. I wanted to marry you. I didn't know what my feelings were at the time, but I thought you were cute right away. Cove brought a hand to his mouth, half hiding his self-conscious smile. His wavy eyebrows were raised in open amazement.
Well...
Oh, thank you for feeling that way. He scrunched his eyes closed, regretting his phrasing. That sounded weird. I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm glad. Cove's hand drifted to the scar on his arm, his fingers unconsciously gliding over the mark. It was much less noticeable than it had been when the neon pink cast had first come off. Shrunken gradually over the years as his body healed, then dwarfed in comparison to his growing body. Still, his fingers came back to it without thinking. He gave a half smile, not meeting her eyes. I feel bad now. I know, because I messed up his settings for 8 years old, so he did not like me back then. I didn't adjust them. The thoughts I had were, well, considering what you were thinking, I came across as a lot worse of a kid. You didn't like me? We know he didn't like me.
No.
No, it definitely wasn't that. It was. Cove lifted his head. He did not like us. He did not like us, girls. He did not like us at all. Cove lifted his head up, finally committing to meet your eyes fully once more. I remember you that day. I remember it really well. I don't think I'd ever be able to forget. I can picture the way you looked back then when I first saw you standing right here. I still know the expression on your face when you chose to sit with me in the grass. He chuckled self-derisively, interrupting his own monologue. You scared me at first. I figured I'd be alone out there until I had to face my dad again. And then suddenly, another kid appeared out of nowhere. It was startling, but I got over that fast. You were a strange person in a strange place, but in that moment you were exactly what I needed. Oops, someone I could talk to freely about what was happening and how it made me feel. And you listened to me, and you stayed with me. He sighed, then bit his lip as he gave a small smile. I was a little bit spoiled growing up. A little? Your teasing rolled easily over Cove, who laughed in reply. He looked off again, seeking clarity for his thoughts in the expanse of the night sky. What I'm trying to say is, when I was younger, I viewed myself basically as the center of the universe. I didn't even imagine it wasn't like that.
I mean...
Things didn't simply happen. That'd be weird, according to my little kid brain. It made more sense that everything in my life had a specific connection to me somehow. Right? He sought affirmation in you, wavy eyebrows raised as he tried to explain his childlike logic. So, at that time, you felt almost unreal. Like you weren't just anyone. Some other kid who happened to live in that neighborhood with your own whole life that wasn't connected to Cove Holden. Not to me. You were there so that you could find me when I was lost. Though it turns out you were there for that. You were trying to find me because something had sent you specifically to do that. I just didn't expect it to be my dad. I guess he knew more about what I needed than I thought. He chuckled, shaking his head as he shook off the thought. I kind of expected it to vanish like a dream when that night was over. I would wake up and everything would be the same again. I'd be back in my bed at home, my real home, with both my parents. The future was something I couldn't picture anymore. I didn't know what school would be like when I went back, or the table where I'd eat breakfast the next morning or anything. And if I couldn't imagine it, how could I think it was something actually happening? I couldn't grasp my new reality. It was too big for me to hold all at once. So I never thought I'd see you again. Then Cove beamed at you, his eyes shining bright. And I never, ever would have been able to guess that 10 years later, when I was a grown-up, the two of us would still be together. Let's see. Guess that makes me your dream come true. You'd been joking, but Cove nodded in agreement. You are. You exactly are. But the smile faded from his face as his eyebrows drew closer together. That was the worst day of my life at the time. The day my family broke apart, it was too heavy for me to even think about. I felt that way for I don't know how long. He held a hand over his heart, connecting with the pain he'd felt as a child, and looked at you earnestly.
It's okay.
But that was never really true. Things have only gotten better with me and with my dad and mom. It was a change we all needed. His eyes were growing misty. So when I remember that time right now, it's not the point that my life is over. It was only the moment that I met the man I love. Oh, thank you. When I was done crying to a stranger over what I thought I'd lost, I didn't have any idea that he would be the one thing in the world that I actually wouldn't be able to live without. Oh. I don't know. I want to say all of these things. Well, I'll just say I love you. It's basic, but I'll say it. He took in a breath, forever amazed whenever you spoke these words.
I love you.
I love you, Joseph. I love you too, Joseph. Oh. We can kiss him now. I'm sorry for squeezing your dad's ass and getting so close to Baxter. And also touching Lee's boobs. You weren't there. He leaned into the kiss, his lips soft against yours. Cove sighed contentedly. His voice was as delicate as the petals on the poppies which crown this hill. Hey, Joseph. I'm so grateful you were there, even when I wanted to run away. He didn't even know what to say back to that. His heartfelt appreciation left you speechless. He tilted his head up, thoughts lost in the sparse clouds above. I wonder how late it is. I guess it really doesn't matter. My dad's fine with me being out whenever. Let's see. You could still text your dad? Okay, no. Okay. That's me saying it. Not me saying, I was like, I don't have a dad, sir. Well, my moms might care, but I don't feel like telling them. Let's see, you want to make sure you message your mom? I'll message mom. You brought your phone out just long enough to shoot off a text. They wouldn't see it anytime soon, but they'd be in the loop once they were up. Are you going to lay in the grass now? Wow, how'd you know? You're predictable. With a chuckle, Cove plopped down onto the ground and laid his back on his usual way of... Cove plopped down onto the ground and laid on his back. His usual way of spending time there. You stayed standing, you sat down, you sat on Cove's chest, you also laid in the bed. We'll snuggle against him. You lowered yourself against Cove's side in the grass and wrapped an arm over his chest. Cove smiled at you and used his free hand to cradle your face. Oh bro, were we in here all night? The both of you fully settled in to relax on the hill. It felt like the beginning of your nightly outings, but then you realized the sun was peeking out over the horizon. Cove spoke up with a disbelieving tone.
Huh.
It really was late. Your neighbor wasn't a stranger to being awake at dawn. However, not like this. He was normally an early sleeper, early riser. This unexpected sunrise particularly awed him. The two of you watched on silently as the sun began to light the worlds. Cove then propped himself on the backs of his arms and looked at you with a soft expression on his face. Do you want to go back home? I could carry you if you're too tired. No, I want to stay here. You couldn't resist a yawn, but you were serious. It couldn't be time to go already. Cove chuckled affectionately and gripped you a little more.
I get it.
Okay, but it's been a long day. We've done a lot of things, like, really a lot. It has to end sometime. It never has to end. Does it really have to end? Yeah, I don't think there's anything either of us can do about that one. But we can stay if you want to. Cove smiled brightly at you, as warm as the new rays of sun that were tickling your skin. In that moment, you couldn't have appreciated him being there more. Let's lean in. No, we can kiss him again. You moved your face towards You moved your face forward and gave Cove a small kiss. He tilted his head against yours. Good night, Cove.
Good night.
Good night, Joseph. The two of you remained together on that familiar poppy hill where you first met until the world began to fade and blur. You were falling asleep. A few more gentle words drifted into your consciousness.
See you tomorrow.
Oh. Your eyelids dipped, but you felt good. You were safe and relaxed. Everything that had come before this had reassured you of that. You were confident that when you opened them again, things would be okay. Yeah, Given was pretty gay. You opened your eyes. Instead of the walls of your room, you were surrounded by open sky. Where's my mouse? Oops, I accidentally turned off my camera. Again. It was not soft pillows and sheets underneath you, but the bed of the earth and the grass that you'd taken last night. The day welcomed you with a shining sun, a refreshing breeze, and a chirping song of birds. You cupped your face with your hands as you sat up, feeling the imprint of the blades of grass leaving lines into your cheeks.
Joseph!
Yes. Hearing your name, you lowered your hands and looked around. There he was, your most influential neighbor, Cove Holden. Oh my god, look at him. Looking kind of fruity there, Cove. He had made himself very comfortable, lying on his stomach with jewelry and shoes taken off and a flower in his hands. Good morning. It's not really the morning anymore. Oh wow, what a smirk. Cove laughed, tickled with the overall situation and simply being able to spend time like this. Told you I'd see you tomorrow. It's the exact same day, Cove. We were up until dawn. It doesn't make it a new day now just because we went to sleep later than normal. Then we disagree, because to me, it's not really the next day until I've been to bed and woken up. But fine, I'll have to make sure I see you tomorrow again. Probably a day after that too. That way there's no argument. Cove turned his head up to the sky, his expression content. Looks like it's gonna be a nice day. We'll have to come up with something to do to make the most of it. He trailed off, blinking slowly in the sunlight. Someday, when we're even older than we are now, I wonder what we'll end up remembering for this moment. What will we feel when we look back at it? Will it be the same as what we're feeling right now?
It's nice.
I can't see what the future's gonna look like again, but I think that's alright. Pretty sure I'm gonna have forgotten all about this. We'll mark another new start. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to finding out. Cove turned back to you, nodding in full agreement. He eyed the hills sprawling out before you, and down below, where the wild hail and nature gave way to civilization. Your home and coves lay down at the bottom, neatly filled among the other houses in the neighborhood. Hey Joseph, I bet I can beat you in getting back to the road. You laughed, amused by the wager. That reminded you of so many moments in your youth. As much as I like it here, it's okay if we leave now. We can always come back to see the poppies, the fireflies again, right? Cove met your eyes, waiting for what you were going to say in response. We'll always be together, one way or another. He didn't know where that came from, but Cove blinked slowly, his eyes still locked on yours. Though you didn't need to see his face to know that he adored you. If there had been any room for doubt, the tender way he spoke would have filled it up. You're one of a kind, huh? Oh, we see his foot. Was his foot there before? We see his foot now. Cove beamed at you. His expression was so unlike the one that he'd worn when you first met him here, swaddled in sadness and uncertainty. Yet you couldn't help but glimpse that boy once more underneath his bright expression and matured features.
Come on.
Come on. He offered you a hand. You accepted it, your palm fitting around his. Cove lifted himself up, pulling you along too. Our parents probably aren't gonna come running for us this time. We've got to make our own call, and I say that we can't hide away forever. Poppy Hills is just one part of things. There's more out there for us. There's more out there for us than this time and this place alone. Let's enjoy it. You couldn't say whether you were the one that broke into a run, if Cove had been the one to start, if your feet had simultaneously made that choice for both of you. The end result was the same, the two of you dashing down the hill like children, but with a nostalgic revelry that would only come as an adult. As the wind whipped past you, you knew that family and friends were waiting at the end of your sprint. There were more memories to make after all. Life takes another step forward. Oh my god. Stop, I don't want it to be over. Huh. I don't want it to be over. Oh. I don't have a foot fetish. Oh. I love you so much, Cove Holden. I can't handle this. I can't handle this ending. This needs to last forever. Oh god. Isn't the DLC supposed to be out by now? What's up with that? Let me go check their Patreon right now. Let me go check the damn Patreon. You know what else? I went ahead and I supported them on Patreon, and I saw the lewd image of Cove. He was really sexy and naked, and I saw his pee-pee, and yeah. It was nice. It was really nice. It was nice and hard. Just for me. I don't know when it's coming out, but it's coming out really soon. The third DLC. I don't know when. They're not being very specific about it. At least not yet. Anyhow. You kinda get the crazy Japanese folks marrying girls from Arrow games. Hee hee. I gotta share the picture with you? Naughty, Lindsay. Very naughty. I didn't know you were like that. I thought you were pure girl. But yeah, guys, I guess that's the end of our life up until the third DLC. And then Step 4 will eventually come out at some point in time. And then that'll really be the end, once Step 4 comes out. Oh my god, I'm not ready for the true end. At least right now, as sad as it is that it's over, there's still something coming out soon. See you again. Step 4 Epilogue coming 2021. See, like, I can't... It's 2021, sis. It's 2021. So, what do you gotta say now? It's 2021.